I'm James Franco, reading for Lapham's Quarterly. This is from Jack Kerouac's On the Road, which appears in the summer 2009 issue, Travel. 1949, American Road. It was drizzling and mysterious at the beginning of our journey. I could see that it was all going to be one big saga of the mist. "Woo-wee!" yelled Dean. "Here we go." And he was hunched over the wheel and gunned her. He was back in his element, everyone could see that. We were all delighted. We all realized we were leaving confusion and nonsense behind and performing our one and noble function of the time, move. And we moved. We flashed past the mysterious white signs in the night somewhere in New Jersey that say south with an arrow and west with an arrow, and took the south one. New Orleans. It burned in our brains. From the dirty snows of frosty fag town New York, as Dean called it, all the way to the greeneries and river smells of old New Orleans at the washed-out bottom of America, the West. Ed was in the back seat. Mary Lou and Dean and I sat in front and had the warmest talk about the goodness and joy of life. Dean suddenly became tender. "Now, damn it, look here, all of you. We all must admit that everything is fine and there's no need in the world to worry, and in fact we should realize what it would mean to us to understand that we're not really worried about anything. Am I right?" We all agreed. "Here we go, we're all together. What did we do in New York? Let's forgive." We all had our spats back there. "That's behind us, merely by miles and inclinations. Now we're heading down to New Orleans to dig old Bull Lee, and ain't that gonna be kicks? And listen, will you, to this old tenderman blow his top." He shot up the radio volume till the car shuddered. "And listen to him tell the story and put down true relaxation and knowledge." "Oh, man, what kicks!" yelled Dean. "Now, Mary Lou, listen, really, honey. You know that I'm hot rock, capable of everything at the same time, and I have unlimited energy. Now, in San Francisco, we must go on living together. I know just the place for you, at the end of the regular chain gang run. I'll be home just a cut hair less than every 2 days and for 12 hours at a stretch, and man, you know what we can do in 12 hours, darling. Meanwhile, I'll go right on living at Camille's like nothing, see? She won't know. We can work it. We've done it before." We arrived in Washington at dawn. It was the day of Harry Truman's inauguration for his second term. Great displays of war might were lined along Pennsylvania Avenue as we rolled by in our battered boat. There were B-29s, PT boats, artillery, all kinds of war material that looked murderous in the snowy grass. The last thing was a regular small ordinary lifeboat that looked pitiful and foolish. Dean slowed down to look at it. He kept shaking his head in awe. "What are these people up to? Harry's sleeping somewhere in this town. Good old Harry. Man from Missouri, as I am. That must be his own boat." Dean went to sleep in the back seat, and Dunkel drove. We gave him specific instructions to take it easy. No sooner were we snoring than he gunned the car up to 80, bad bearings and all, and not only that, but he made a triple pass at a spot where a cop was arguing with a motorist. He was in the fourth lane of a 4-lane highway going the wrong way. Naturally, the cop took after us with his siren whining. We were stopped. He told us to follow him to the station house. There was a mean cop in there who took an immediate dislike to Dean. He could smell jail all over him. He sent his cohorts outdoors to question Mary Lou and me privately. They wanted to know how old Mary Lou was. They were trying to whip up a Mann Act idea. But she had her marriage certificate. Then they took me aside alone and wanted to know who was sleeping with Mary Lou. "Her husband," I said quite simply. They were curious. Something was fishy. They tried some amateur Sherlocking by asking the same questions twice, expecting us to make a slip. I said, "Those two fellas are going back to work on the railroad in California. This is the short one's wife, and I'm a friend on a 2-week vacation from college." The cop smiled and said, "Yeah? Is this really your own wallet?" Finally, the mean one inside fined Dean $25. We told them we only had 40 to go all the way to the coast. They said that made no difference to them. When Dean protested, the mean cop threatened to take him back to Pennsylvania and slap a special charge on him. "What charge?" "Never mind what charge. Don't worry about that, wise guy." We had to give them the 25. But first Ed Dunkel, that culprit, offered to go to jail. Dean considered it. The cop was infuriated. He said, "If you let your partner go to jail, I'm taking you back to Pennsylvania right now. You hear that?" The American police are involved in psychological warfare against those Americans who don't frighten them with imposing papers and threats. It's a Victorian police force. It peers out of musty windows and wants to inquire about everything, and can make crimes if the crimes don't exist to its satisfaction. 9 lines of crime, 1 of boredom, said Louis Ferdinand Celine. Dean was so mad he wanted to come back to Virginia and shoot the cop as soon as he had a gun. Pennsylvania, he scoffed. I wish I knew what the charge was. Vag, probably. Take all my money and charge me vag. Those guys have it so damn easy. They'll out and shoot you if you complain, too. There was nothing to do but get happy with ourselves again and forget about it. When we got through Richmond, we began forgetting about it, and soon everything was okay. Now we had $15 to go all the way. We'd have to pick up hitchhikers and bum quarters off them for gas. In the Virginia wilderness, suddenly we saw a man walking on the road. Dean zoomed to a stop. I looked back and said he was only a bum and probably didn't have a cent. I would just pick him up for kicks, Dean laughed. The man was a ragged, bespectacled mad type walking along reading a paperback muddy book he'd found in a culvert by the road. See, cackled Dean, poking my ribs. I told you it was kicks. Everybody's kicks, man. We carried Solomon all the way to Testament. My brother by now was in his new house on the other side of town. Here we were back on the long, bleak street with the railroad track running down the middle and the sad, sullen Southerners loping in front of hardware stores and 5 and 10s. Solomon said, See, you people need a little money to continue your journey. You wait for me and I'll go hustle up a few dollars at a Jewish home and I'll go along with you as far as Alabama. He and I rushed off to buy bread and cheese spread for lunch in the car. Mary Lou and Ed waited in the car. We spent 2 hours in Testament waiting for Hyman Solomon to show up. He was hustling for his bread somewhere in town, but we couldn't see him. The sun began to grow red and late. Solomon never showed up, so we roared out of Testament. Now, you see, Sal, God does exist because we keep getting hung up with this town no matter what we try to do, and you'll notice the strange biblical name of it, and that strange biblical character made us stop here once more, and all things tied together all over like rain connecting everybody the world over by chain touch. Dean rattled on like this. He was overjoyed and exuberant. He and I suddenly saw the whole country like an oyster for us to open, and the pearl was there, the pearl was there. Off we roared south. We picked up another hitchhiker. This was a sad young kid who said he had an aunt who owned a grocery store in Dunn, North Carolina, right outside Fayetteville. When we get there, you can bum $1 off her, right? Fine. Let's go. We were in Dunn in an hour, at dusk. We drove to where the kid said his aunt had a grocery store. It was a sad little street that dead-ended at a factory wall. There was a grocery store, but there was no aunt. We wondered what the kid was talking about. We asked him how far he was going. He didn't know. It was a big hoax. Once upon a time, in some lost back-alley adventure, he had seen the grocery store in Dunn, and it was the first story that popped into his disordered, feverish mind. We bought him a hot dog, but Dean said we couldn't take one along because we needed room to sleep and room for hitchhikers who could buy a little gas. This was sad but true. We left him in Dunn at nightfall. I drove through South Carolina and beyond Macon, Georgia, as Dean, Mary Lou, and Ed slept. All alone in the night, I had my own thoughts and held the car to the white line and the holy road. What was I doing? Where was I going? I'd soon find out. I got dog-tired beyond Macon and woke up Dean to resume. We got out of the car for air, and suddenly both of us were stoned with joy to realize that in the darkness all around us was fragrant green grass and the smell of fresh manure and warm waters. We're in the South. We've left the winter. Faint daybreak illuminated green shoots by the side of the road. I took a deep breath. A locomotive howled across the darkness. Mobile bound. So were we. I took off my shirt and exulted. 10 miles down the road, Dean drove into a filling station with the motor off, noticed that the attendant was fast asleep at the desk, jumped out, quietly filled the gas tank, saw to it the bell didn't ring, and rolled off like an Arab with a $5 tank full of gas for our pilgrimage. I slept and woke up to the crazy, exultant sounds of music and Dean and Mary Lou talking and the great green land rolling by. Where are we?